The Car Dealer podcast is sponsored by Autotrader. John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with Autotrader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
Autotrader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Car Dealer podcast, where we pick our favourite stories of the week and ask an industry guest to choose which were the best. I'm John Ray, and joining me this week, probably with a slightly dodgy back, it's James Baggett. James, how are you? How's your spine?
Spine's average, John. Thank you. Yeah, average. But the listeners don't want to hear about my ailments, do they?
No, they do, because you had some very expensive back surgery, didn't you, about a year ago or so?
2 years ago. They replaced 2 discs in my spine and put a cage around the bottom of it. Went in the front and the back for fans of surgery. Was pretty grim. I was off work.
Yes, it all worked very well until the other night watching the TV.
I hate
you sneezed and undid all the good work.
I mean, that's when you know you're old, isn't it? Like when you sneeze and you crock your back, or when you wake up in the morning and you're in more pain than when you went to sleep. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling very old. And thanks for bringing that up on the podcast, John. I'm glad you made a note of it and said you would. I hate you. Anyway, how are you? How was your trip back to deepest, darkest Kent last night?
Very nice, actually.
Did you have a KFC?
No, I didn't. I did a U and I went to M&S and bought some air fryable chicken. Why am I saying that?
I don't know.
Well, something else I was going to mention. You've been buying. I mean, I was going to say what's been happening. What's been exciting with you? Your sales have picked up.
They have,
haven't they?
Yeah, they have indeed. Yeah, it's been a good week actually. Very good week. We sold 9 cars this week, 2 trade and the rest retail. So yeah, very, very pleased with that. Sold 2 of them on dealer weight, which was good. They sort of didn't fit our stock profile. One had been in stock a little bit too long. Moved it on, made a very small profit, but nice to get our money back on it and move it again. But yeah, retail's really picked up. It just seems to have we've had loads of calls. Got some people coming to see some cars tomorrow and one this afternoon. So hopefully January will end with a bit of a bang, because it's been a weird month. Like the start of it was so quiet. Then we went on holiday and Luke looked after the place and he was pretty quiet, sold a couple of cars. But then like mid-month, it really took off. So, and I think January might end up being our best ever month, which is, I wouldn't have said that at the start of this month. You know, listeners to this podcast have probably heard me moaning about it the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's funny how it changes. And I think, you know, when it comes to retail, it's just, it's I know I've mentioned it before, it's the unpredictability that I just can't get my head around. It's a real struggle.
What I like about your business is that I cannot tell, because you've got your cars in so many places, I can't actually tell when you've sold some things until you walk in the dealership and you check out the Clever Car Collection wine cellar just above the sink, which is full of the bottles of wine that you give away as a thank you for taking away your Kia Picantos. And the other day it was completely rammed. It was like a proper cellar, like Waitrose would have been proud of it. Which is where most of it came from. And today, like nothing in there. So you can see how suddenly everything's
that's been good. But
like the wine monitor, as I'm going to call it.
Lots of cars turned up as well. We had I love it when a transporter load of cars turned up, which they did on Monday, I think it was. It was reasonably stressful. 12 cars could turn up at the same time, but it's I find it really, really exciting. I love it. So yeah, that was good. It's in this week's video, which you could probably be able to watch tonight if we manage to edit in time. So yeah, it's been a good week. I'm feeling positive, but now going away for 2 weeks because we're heading to America, aren't we? We've got some amazing travels ahead.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, which hopefully will stop us buying more things on Niche as well.
We'll be talking about it next week, won't we? We're going to be at NADA for the conference next week, reporting back on that all week, doing some video content. We're going to be doing a special podcast from the conference, and then John and I are heading across to Pennsylvania from Vegas afterwards to do a video at the largest car auction in America, which is going to be very exciting. So, yeah, I'm excited about that.
And you'll never guess where it is, James. What's the town called?
No idea.
BCA? No, Mannheim.
That's the one. That's what the town is called.
Yeah, it's called Mannheim, Pennsylvania. That's why Mannheim is called
Is
Mannheim.
it really? Wow, that's an interesting fact for my video. Thanks for doing some research. Oh, anyway, should we stop waffling? Introduce our guest. Yeah.
Yes. So our guest this week is the man responsible for keeping Clever Car Collection's stock clean. And no, it's not Luke or the man from the hand car wash down the road. It's, of course, marketing manager at Autoglym, Mark Docherty. Mark, lovely to see you.
Good to see you too as well.
John, you can't tell Mark that we take a car to a hand car wash. I mean, it's a surefire way of ending the podcast immediately.
Only when he's busy.
Looking on with disgust. Mark, lovely to see you. You've given us lots of advice and tips and help over the years, and certainly helped shape the way that we clean the cars at Clever Car Collection, which I sort of want to talk about. But I mean, firstly, just for those people listening, do a little bit of an introduction for people who may not have heard of Autoglym, which I think is probably quite unlikely, but do it anyway.
Okay, well, hopefully the listeners to this podcast will at least have heard of Autoglym, if not be using it themselves, either at home and in their business. But the brief history is, so Autoglym started in 1965. It started in the UK by a guy that wanted a way to turn pre-owned cars into as new a condition as possible to get them ready for resale. So Autoglym actually starts in the car dealer industry. It starts with a small range of products. And at the time, polishing a car, you'd put the polish on and then you almost had to take a hammer and chisel to get it off again. So it was very, very difficult to use. Results were variable. And that's where Autoglym really kind of led with their polish. So it was really easy to put on, great results, really easy to take off as well, didn't go hard. And for about 15 years or so, it was a trade-only product. So we sold, exclusively into car dealerships, into the trade. And it got to the point where customers were kind of saying, what are you using on that car? How'd you get the car so good? And people were doing like wee jam jars of it out the back, take this home kind of thing, till we realized there was an opportunity for consumers at home. So in the kind of early 80s, we launched the retail line. And that's where now the products are in kind of Halfords and Amazon, your independent motor factors and so on. And that's probably where most people know us now, because there'll be a polish in their garage. Their dad used it. It was this. There's a lot of that kind of my dad used it, stuff coming through, which is really lovely stories. But now people discover us online, and as I say, in the shelves online and shelves in Amazon, in Halfords and so on. So so that's the kind of history we've got. The kind of newest additions, I suppose, are we clean buses and trains, which is like my passion I didn't even realize I had till I kind of got involved in that. I'm not out there with a notebook, don't worry, I'm not jotting down route timetables and stuff, but the bus industry is a lot of fun, a lot of kind of characters in there, kind of like the motor trade, it's like big people, it's a real people business, which is fun. And then the last bit is our kind of dealer opportunity with paint protection. So we have a product called Life Shine, so that's sold exclusively in the UK to car dealers as an after-sales opportunity for dealers. So we're kind of adding value for people with their new car to kind of keep the car looking newer for longer. And it's a great opportunity for dealers to kind of get a bit more money out of the chassis, really. So, yeah.
Mark, how long have you been with the business, and what got you involved in it?
So I've been with Autoglym since 2001. My first day was September the 10th, 2001, which is the only reason I can remember it. It was before a very memorable day. So yeah, I basically, like probably a lot of people, never planned to do it. I went to uni in Portsmouth, so not too far from where you guys are. And I was assured in my first year, you didn't have to do any work. This is like, you don't do anything. So I took this on board and then spectacularly failed my first year and thought, well, maybe university isn't for me, because I've really enjoyed not doing academic work actually. And just started temping at Autoglym. So I went back to my hometown in Letchworth, lived with mum and dad, temped in Autoglym, and my first kind of days were putting lids on bottles and bottles on boxes, and then joined the business, did that for a couple of years, and then I moved into the quality team. So there's like we're really strong on quality controls. You can imagine every single thing we make is tested and looked at in depth. So I looked after that department for a few years, about 8 years, and then there was an opportunity to move into online marketing. So at the time, we didn't have a dedicated online marketer. It was like, someone should probably look after the Facebook group. It was that kind of thing. I mean, these are dedicated functions now in any big business, but at the time it was kind of, oh, probably find someone who should do that. So that kind of moved me into marketing, and that's where I've been for over 10 years now. So various functions, started in consumer, so the kind of white bottles at home, and then more recently moved across to trade. And absolutely love it on the B2B side. It's big volumes, kind of big characters, and I think a lot of great people to meet. So it's good fun.
And you've got a massive range of products now, haven't you? I mean, you've been down and helped out at Clever Car Collection a few times, and whenever you do, there's always one of your franchisees turning up in one of their vans, and I'm just amazed at like the range of products you do. I mean, how many products do you offer? Because I think there's probably some people listening to that who just think of it as polish and some car shampoo, but it's a bit bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I need to learn that number to hand, but it's probably between kind of 200 and 300, if not over that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Especially across all the different ranges. I mean, if you look at just pure chemistry, like in the bottle, yeah, it's like definitely over 100. So it does surprise me as well, like where the need comes from. And it's kind of, I say to people that any part of a vehicle you want to clean, protect, or improve, we will have a product or a process to do that. So there's pretty much anything you want to do, we can help you do it.
There'll be a lot of people listening to this who kind of sort of think of the valeting part of their business as the sort of forgotten part of the business. I mean, it's for us, it's really, really important. I mean, we prepare cars to a very high standard. We hand polish all of them with your products, and we want them looking good, even though they're £4,000 Kia Picantos, as John likes to point out. We still want them looking really nice, but for slightly larger businesses, it does get forgotten, doesn't it? But it is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it is one of those roles you can see that's kind of maybe at the the bottom of the ladder, if you like, and it's out the back. It's not the glitzy front showroom with the lights and everything's clean and beautiful looking. A lot of customers won't see where their cars are prepped and just they can sometimes the tough conditions people got to do. I mean, imagine February 6 a.m. washing a car, wet hands, cold, out the back. Everyone expects that car to look amazing. When the customer gets the car, it looks amazing. So there's some real kind of heroes out there that are working in tough conditions, getting things done. So it's a really vital part though, and I'm sure every valeter will have had the frantic, wild-eyed look salesman come in saying, "This car is being collected in 40 minutes. Can you valet it and put life shine on it? And drop everything you're doing." So I think it's one of those roles as the kind of unsung heroes in dealerships where, as you said, when everything's working right, you kind of don't realize that they're there because the stock looks great, and it's so vital, as you say, when a photo probably sells the car. Like when people turn up to your dealership, I imagine a lot of them have kind of already bought it in their head. They've committed to it. They're just making sure that you're okay and the side of the car they can't see in the photo isn't on fire. So it's so important that those first impressions count, and I think that's where we add so much value. And we talk about kind of polishing in the pounds as well. So you can take like a part X that looks like terrible, or you can pick up a car that someone's offered to sell you, James, and you go and see it, and you can like, well, I know I can fix that easily. That's going to cost me that, and then the rest of it, just give it to Luke, give it a damn good valet, and the thing will look a million times better. So yeah.
He's had a few of those turn up this week, hasn't he, John? I mean, that MX-5 with the horrendous roof and the B-Max that's covered in moss. So, I mean, it's going to certainly give him a challenge.
Well, great content for the channel, and we're always at the end of the phone. If he's got anything he can't tackle, we can always offer advice remotely.
That is appreciated. I mean, I know that you also give a lot of advice for dealers who come up and get some training. I came up and had that training myself in the early days, and people were probably thinking, well, what do you need to know about washing a car? And I certainly learned a lot, if I'm honest. Tell us a little bit about that part of the business and how that works.
Yeah, so that's the Autoglym Academy, and the timing just didn't work, James. I think you were about to have a child. You had to come to our old academy just before it had loads of investment. It's been all refreshed, so it looks much, much nicer. You have to come back again. But yeah, that was something we identified quite early on, and Autoglym kind of led for a number of years in the UK was, it's all very well selling people products, how to use, but knowing how to use them and quickly and get good repeatable results is really the key to people buying into your brand and sticking with you and finding a system that works for them. And like you say, washing a car, you give anyone the tools, they can wash a car and they'll do an okay job of it. But in the trade, it's, you're doing it 8 hours a day, 360 days a year. You've got to do it quickly, efficiently, and you don't want to be splashing chemical around. You don't need to. You've got to control those costs. And as you've found out, Martin's a good trainer, but he will call you out when you're doing things that aren't quite right, like dropping the wash mitt or going from the bottom of the car to the top. It's all about working smartly. But that's something we love doing. We love welcoming people into Autoglym because, as well as learning something, they kind of find out a bit about who we are. So we're not some, I think people think Autoglym's a lot bigger than we are. We have a massive footprint, a massive presence, internationally as well. But it's still about 140 people in North Hertfordshire, manufacturing everything on site, developing everything on site, filling it on site, and it all leaves there and goes around the world. So yeah, we're very, very proud that we have, we still manufacture where we are, and we have that control on everything from start to finish. So it's a big part of people understanding that when they come in, just to kind of learn how to use the products as well.
It did surprise me that when I came up to do that course, just the fact that it is all produced there. It's a huge, like, just behind the scenes. It's like an iceberg, isn't it? There's a huge amount going on behind the scenes that you see at the front. I'll give people an idea listening to this of the work that goes into developing these products, because it's not just a case of producing it and letting it fly. They're often constantly updated.
Yeah, so we've got a really great innovation team at Autoglym, a really great research and development team, and that's often where things will start. So sometimes it will start from someone like anyone in the business can submit an idea, and we're always welcoming ideas in and looking to pull those threads. But so you get an idea for a product, or we'll discover like an unmet need with a customer, and that could be a dealer, like a train company, as I said, or anyone, a haulier, anyone we deal with, and then we just start to really get down to what does that product need to do, like fundamentally what does it need to achieve. And then in every single product we make, we always make sure that we've got the three kind of pillars of ease of use. They have to be easy to use to be an Autoglym product. They have to deliver exceptional results, and they have to offer really good value for money. So there might not always be the cheapest product on the market, and I think we unashamedly position ourselves in a premium space, certainly in the consumer market. In professional, it's just that really high concentration. So you might, it's kind of like, it's a terrible analogy, but like Fairy Liquid a bit. It costs you a bit more to buy, but it will last you so much longer, and that's where you unlock all that value from. So we make sure we build everything like that into a product. Then it will go down into the academy for testing. It gets given to people like me to test at home and so on. Then we get it out to customers. Depending on the complexity of the product, if we've really got to get a move on, we can turn things out in months, provided that the chemistry isn't too complex and we know it well. If we're doing something new for the first time, or it's something a bit more challenging, it can run into years, but it all depends what you're trying to do. I think the worst thing you can do is rush a product out and then disappoint people. And we ask people to wait for something that's going to not let them down when they need it, rather than, have to go through that, damage of reputation and rush a product out to market. And I think certainly in automotive, we can probably think of examples of that where it feels like a product's been rushed out and kind of consumers are testing it while they're driving it around and it's being fixed on the fly. That's not something that we want to do. So, we'll always do stability with products. We keep things for like, a year to make sure they're not going to separate and all these kind of things. So it's really, really important. And I had a boss who once said to me, quality is never having to say you're sorry. And that's always kind of stuck with me, that, if it's got the Autoglym square on it, it has to live up to a certain set of values that we insist on.
Yeah, good words to live by. We're also in pretty good company, aren't we, using these products as a Clever Car Collection? Because Autoglym's got a Royal Warrant, hasn't it? And it's had that for quite some time. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Does that mean the King uses it to clean his Picantos?
Of course he does, John. Of course he does.
The whole fleet.
Yeah.
We're since 91. I think we got Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, as he was then. He was the first one that. So to get anyone who doesn't know, You can't buy these. You can't bribe your way into it. A royal household has to use your product for 5 years of their own choice. And they have to pay for it, and then they can choose to appoint you if they want to. So that's kind of how it works. You can't cheat your way into these. So Prince of Wales came on, and then the Queen Mother, she had her own warrant for a while. So when she was kind of still the Queen Mother, so she came on, I think, the following year. Then the Queen was 2004, so that was the one that really carried a terrific amount of weight internationally for us. Places like Canada, Japan, where they absolutely love the royal family. If they got a link through the Commonwealth or just their kind of Anglophiles, if you like, it's it really works hard for us, and certainly in the UK as well. The people that understand that, it really carries some weight. And then with the king coming to the throne a few years ago, everything was up for discussion again. So his prince warrant was removed, and then it was awaiting to see if you were going to be appointed with the king. So we were delighted that we were, and very honoured. So we now carry the King's Royal Warrant on all of our products, and it's something we're terrifically proud of, being a British manufacturer with the endorsement of the head of state and the king. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I just wonder how it sort of comes about in the first place. I mean, it is, was Prince Charles, as he was at the time, out there polishing his jag and going, actually, this bottle of polish is really good. I'm going to stick my seal of approval.
I must thank these people in some formal way. No, it was so we work with their chauffeur team. So you can imagine, there's fleets of drivers who maintain the vehicles, and so our guys, like people like Martin, our technical services team that you met, and Ryan and Carl. And the other guys, Lee, they'll go in, work with the chauffeurs to train them up exactly like you had, but instead of working on a Kia Picanto, or I can't remember whether car you brought on the day, John, they'll work on a kind of state limousine or some priceless car that they have. So they actually get to learn on the vehicles they'll be working on. And, for such a highly photographed, highly filmed, any royal wedding, obviously, the cars are followed literally from the palace to the church and so on. These things have to look immaculate all the time. So, we work with their teams to make sure that they're in the condition that's befitting of, literally royalty. So, yeah, we work hand in hand with them.
Yeah, I mean, something to be incredibly proud of. And talking of which, we obviously wanted to get you on because you were one of the companies that we put through our rigorous testing, the Car Dealer Recommends program. Now, this is for companies like yours that where products that we use. It's our royal seal of approval. Mark, it's our royal seal of approval, but slightly less important. But yes, we obviously tested your products over the last couple of years, and we're incredibly pleased with them. Any company that scores over 90 out of 100 in this testing program gets the Car Dealer Recommends. You scored 96 out of 100, which is an incredible score, and that's testament to the fact that everybody in the dealership loves using the products. And there's a few that I just find I just couldn't live without. I find it quite funny that I'm saying it, but stuff like window cleaner, and the wheel cleaner, they're absolutely vital when you get the sort of cars that we get in. We're dealing with old 10-year-old cars that have probably never seen wheel cleaner or probably never had their rear interior windows cleaned. So the reason we gave you such a great score is because the products work. I mean, it's has it helped? When you're out there talking to other dealers, saying, "Oh, Clever Car Collection uses this." No.
I mean, you'll forgive us. I don't know if we're going to have room to put the Car Dealer Recommends logo next to the Royal Warrant on every product.
I think you should. I think you should.
I mean, we'll look at it next time we artwork everything. We'll see if we can find some space. But no, it's really great for us. As I said at the beginning, that's kind of our heritage. That's exactly where we started. It's turning pre-owned cars back into cars that are look as new as possible again. And I think the older the car, the bigger the challenge. So it was really great for us to hear that was working so well. And yeah, delighted to win the award. So I'm glad we're adding value to your business.
No, well, congratulations on that front. John, we probably, though, should move on to some stories. It's been a busy week and we've got lots to cover. But Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Lovely to see you. Thanks for talking about all things Autoglym and hanging around for our stories. But let's give them a go, John.
We'll be right back. Running a dealership means making hundreds of decisions every day. But James, when do you get the time to step back and think?
Well, John, I don't. But this is exactly what Car Dealer Live is for. On March the 19th, at the British Motor Museum in Gaydon, the UK's car dealers, manufacturers and suppliers will come together to learn what's actually working right now. You'll hear from dealers who've built great businesses and exclusive research from headline sponsors Auto Trader, as well as Google, Motorway, Cox Automotive, Keyloop and Impel. We'll be tackling the big questions like how buyers are really using AI, what Chinese challenger brands mean for your forecourt, and how the best dealers are growing faster than anyone else.
Maybe you'll actually learn something, James.
Bit rude, John, but you're probably right. Car Dealer Live is sponsored by Auto Trader and takes place on March the 19th at the British Motor Museum. Tickets are available now at cardealerlive.co.uk. Now, a quick word from one of our sponsors.
Attention Car Dealer podcast listeners. Do you want a better, quicker, more profitable way of trading out of your part exchanges or overage stock? List your cars on Dealerway today and connect with over 3,000 vetted trade buyers actively looking for vehicles. No hidden fees, no hassle. Start your own custom auctions from your desk or the palm of your hand in our game-changing app, or advertise your stock on quick, easy, buy it now listings to our eager buyers who are waiting to quickly acquire vehicles. What are you waiting for? Join Dealerway today at dealerway.co.uk and streamline your disposals.
John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with Auto Trader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
Auto Trader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk. Now, back to the podcast.
James and I are going to run through our favourite stories of the week, and at the end, Mark gets to decide which one of us chose the best ones and who is the winner. I won last week, which means I need to start, which means I need to find a story.
You're 2-0 up, John. 2-0 up for fans of scores.
Oh, excellent news. Don't care, James. So I'm going to start with news of BCA and Aston Barclay, and it's that the Competition and Markets Authority has greenlit provisionally BCA's owners' takeover of Aston Barclay. So this has been rumbling around the background for a while. They've obviously been investigating. The CMA have been investigating. They've been asking lots of people for submissions. Many companies and individuals have submitted things to the CMA to say whether it is or it isn't a good idea for the enormous Constellation Automotive Group to take over the relatively small Aston Barclay name and sites and technology and all that stuff. In the meantime, Aston Barclay's been, as I correct if I'm wrong, James, operating as it has been because legally that's what they have to do while all this is going on. But this is the first kind of bit of news we've had from the investigation, and it looks like it is likely to go ahead. I mean, I should say there's still the deadline for submitting responses to CMA is still open. It's the 12th of February. So people have got 2 weeks to get in any more grievances they might have with this deal. But the CMA have laid out their position in an interim report, and they've said that they've provisionally found the takeover has created a relevant merger situation, but has not resulted and may not be expected to result in a substantial lessening of competition in the supply of business-to-business used vehicle auction services across the UK. Very wordy. The main part of this is they actually think that Aston Barclay, were it not to have been taken over by BCA, would have sort of disappeared. It would have been split up. They say their assessment is it wasn't going to sustain itself on its own. It would have had to have been sold or broken up or whatever. As a result, this is not really a conflict of interest. I mean, what do you make of this, James?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've rightly pointed out, their assessment was, I mean, they actually pinned it on Aston Barclay's financial position. I'm just looking at the notes that I've made. I wrote about this in my Substack today, and I picked up on those points because they think that should BCA not have taken them over, Aston Barclay would have disappeared anyway. They were in a precarious position, apparently, financially, and their words were that they would have exited the market on its own accord. Such were those difficulties and access to capital needed to help keep it afloat. So, I mean, I've chatted to quite a few people about this week because, I mean, I think it's fair to say BCA isn't the most loved car auction house out there. I mean, if you look in any of the online Facebook groups, any of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, pretty much every week there is a complaint of some form about BCA. So I think this is why it was such high interest in the motor trade, because Aston Barclay was actually, they had a good reputation. I mean, they had some, we went to one, didn't we, John, when we went and filmed with Jamie Capel. And it was a really nice site. It had good investment. They were nice people, and I just felt that they had that kind of that atmosphere that people liked, and the attitude that people liked. So I think this is why that so many people were disappointed to see them taken over. And there will be a lot of people, and the people have said to me on the phone this week that they'll be really disappointed to see them gone and swallowed up by BCA. What's going to happen to those sites? Well, obviously, there's going to be no more physical auctions there, is there? I mean, you would think. I mean, BCA's model is all online. So what's the point in having more sites that operate physically if you just operate online? So it feels to me like it was a case of purchase to kill it in some way. I can't see all those sites continuing. Do they really need any more space to store cars? Probably not. Maybe there's some contracts that Aston Barclay had that BCA didn't, and they can snap up as part of the deal, and that's where the value is. It's hard to know why they wanted them, isn't it?
I mean, the other thing is it technology based?
Possibly. I mean, they have a really good app. I mean, I think Aston Barclay had a good app, but
yeah, exactly. It's very hard to say. You'd like to think it would be lovely if they just carried on as Aston Barclay within the Constellation banner, but of course that's not going to happen, is it? BCA will take over it, I'm sure.
There is another place where we're going to miss that. There's going to be a decline in physical auctions, isn't there? And I think there'll be a lot of people in the motor trade that will just miss that.
Mark, you're down the road from a very small auction house, aren't you, of course? Is the Letchworth Motor Auctions around the corner from...
Yeah,
that's closed.
Sadly,
no
more. As reported on Car Dealer magazine.
Exactly, John.
Dear.
Come on, pay attention.
When was that? 6 months ago? I'm not really paying attention, am I?
No, but do you know what? I have fond memories of stopping home with my dad. We'd go to Sainsbury's and then we'd call in it was where Letchworth Car Auctions used to be, another site, and we'd just kind of stand at the back and watch it go past. Such a buzz. It was such good fun. I was always terrified I'd move and buy something, which was hilarious as kind of like a 12-year-old boy, like, putting a bid in that was taken by the auctioneer. But yeah, no, it's a shame. I mean, it's just everything's moving to consolidation and bigger brands that are hoovering everything up. So I guess once the dealerships are all consolidated, they'll consolidate everything around it as well. So it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. I think part of the complaints as well, just when it comes to BCA, is the fact that it is all online, and people can't check these cars over like they can when they're running through a physical lane. I mean, when we went to G3 and when we went to Aston Barclay, you can look over the cars a little bit more. You can sniff inside them, can't you? You can watch it start up. You can listen to them. It's very difficult when you're doing that with a picture on a web page. And I think this is part of the reason people are so upset. I think they want to see those physical auctions, and it was a massive part of the trade. It has been for years. It was a place where people got together and asked them, how has your January been, rather than you just sat at home thinking, is it just me? So yeah, I think it's disappointing to see it gone.
Yes, it is. And I should say, Mark, as well, your 12-year-old experience, they're very similar to James's 45-year-old experience going to an auction, where we left with nothing because he was too scared to put his hand up. James, over to you. Next story, please.
It's funny because it's true. Let us move on to a topic that has dominated my week and actually the last few months and even maybe the last year. I want to talk about Chinese cars, or China, as President Trump would say. So this week we have released a video all about Chinese cars and the way that they're rapidly changing the face of the UK car market. I've chatted to people like Peter Smythe, the Swansway Group director. I've chatted to Mark Palmer, the Auto Trader Insights director, and their quotes are included in that video, and the things that they talk about are incredibly interesting. I wanted to know when I started investigating this is just, how have these Chinese manufacturers grown so quickly? John, we've been talking about it a lot this week, haven't we? It's just like, what is it? What was the thing that has made these these Chinese manufacturers so successful compared to the Japanese or the Koreans? So, and I think it's the speed at which they've done it has been amazing, really. I'm going to ask your opinion in a moment, John, but from my point of view, it's just it's the price of the cars that they've come in with have just really cornered an area of the market at a time when other manufacturers have pushed the prices up. Take some of those traditional heritage manufacturers, but these consumers were going back in there and being asked for £200 a month more for the equivalent Tiguan they'd been driving around in when their PCP deal came up. And then they started to look around. They were big increases in prices of finance packages. And the Chinese came along at exactly the right time with cars that look pretty similar, that had great technology, and had brands on them that people didn't really recognize. I think that what surprised the industry is that people really don't actually care, or a lot of people don't really actually care what badge is on the front of their car, especially when it's one that nobody's heard of. Take JQ as an example. Huge acceleration in the last year, 28,000 cars they sold last year. And people are like proud to call it the Temu Range Rover. There's features in the national newspapers, on TikTok, and just about how people are proud that they're driving this around. And the sort of analogy I use is a bit like the rise of Aldi and Lidl, supermarkets. The people who sort of shop in them, are often the kind of Marks and Spencer's buyers, the people who would just like to get a bit of a bargain. And they're actually proud of the fact that they're getting a bit of a bargain. And I think these Chinese cars that have come along with their sort of middle aisle prices have really cornered a market. They took 10% of the market last year. That figure alone was quite staggering. 111,000 cars they sold. And they think, the experts I spoke to, that by 2030, it will be 20% of the market. That's a fifth of the car market. It is huge. We're seeing structural change like we've never seen it before. And I just can't remember in the 20 years or so I've been writing about the automotive industry ever a time like it. We are absolutely at the forefront of these Chinese cars taking over, of changing the face in the market. And I think this year is going to be the year where it all really kicks off. We're going to lose some manufacturers, I think, some traditional manufacturers, people who are just going to finally think it's not worth fighting them because we can't. And these Chinese manufacturers are just going to grow and grow. So, I'd urge people listening to this or watching this on our second YouTube channel to go and have a look at that video that we put out on Car Dealer Magazine YouTube channel. And there's a big feature on the website all about it, because I was fascinated. It really opened my eyes, John, a little bit more to the change that's happening. I know we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, but it's when you look at the numbers and you look at what's coming, the brands that are here and the brands that are coming, it's just, you realise how much the industry is going to change this year. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, because I think we've never actually discussed this before, apart from last week and the week before that, and then the one before that, and then the Christmas Roundup podcast. I think we might have discussed it, and then probably the few podcasts before that, and then podcast live. I think we might have mentioned it. But apart from that, we've barely touched on it.
Never mentioned it.
Barely touched on it. Why do I think they're successful? Lots of people come up with lots of different theories. I think there's never like a one black and white thing as to why something has been successful. I think it's a multitude of stuff. I agree with everything you said, basically. Let's move on. No, I was just going to say, I think it's not even the Aldi and Lidl comparison. What I think of, particularly with the JQ stuff, is, I don't know about you, James, it's probably not your area, but I get proliferated with adverts for like dupe is the word. It's not a word. It's in a shortened version of a word, like copycat versions of, let's say, expensive colognes and perfumes and whatever. There's a lot of that. It's like, don't buy Miss Dior, don't buy Creed, go and buy this one that I've made in my garage for $15.99. There's so much of that all over Instagram and YouTube adverts at the moment. And people really buy into it and really love them all because, of course, it's like 1/10 of the price of what they'd have to pay for this posh brand. So I just think we're in a time where, yeah, as you say, cost of living is a big squeeze, and it's suddenly become far more acceptable to have this kind of brand than it would have been 10 years ago. So I sort of think, had Jayco and Omoda and BYD and so on appeared even 10 years ago, I don't think they would have been as successful as they have been at the moment. I think it just happens to have coincided with a shifting of attitudes, and also a lot more Chinese products in general, like that are proudly Chinese, should I say, because I mean, I'm sitting in a room with a laptop made in China and a phone made in China and a screen made in China, and probably everything else in here is made in China. We're just not aware of it. But now you walk into a shopping centre and there's, let's say, well, I think Shein, for example, is an enormous thing, obviously. It's actually moving into physical retail space in some cities, particularly Paris, I think, which has upset the Paris fashion magnates. And then you've got these other ones like Miniso. You've walked past these funny little shops with kind of giant bears and all sorts of stuff in. It's becoming quite cool for the generation below us, James, to kind of own something Chinese, whether it's a Xiaomi phone or a whatever. So I can see it from that point of view. And yeah, I think price is so important as well. What I disagree with is a lot of people will say the tech is so good on them. And having driven a few of them, the tech is appalling. The tech is rubbish. It's just it's a product that has been made for China that has had some very mild tweaks to it that hasn't really been set up for the UK. So many of these I've driven. If I talk about driver aids, first of all, they don't understand what a UK road looks like. So the margin of error you get on lane keep assist, for example, is so slim that wherever you go on a British road that is as wide as a British road is, they're constantly trying to send you left and right. You have to, that needs to turn off immediately, whereas it doesn't in some cars. Stupid things like voice activation obviously works different in China because we're used to asking, I'm just going to mute my Amazon device here. We're used to asking Alexa something. Alexa then does it and then shuts up. Every Chinese car I've been in, you ask it for something, it may or may not do it, and then it keeps listening as though you're going to ask it more stuff, and then doesn't go away, and it just drives me insane. This is turning into a slight rant on Chinese.
It's because it wants your state secrets, John, that's why.
Well, yeah, probably. But and it just like everything is. I've never sat in a Chinese car where the home screen for the big screen is a map. I want a map. That's what I want. I don't want a picture of some penguins. That's what they all are, and it drives me mad. Like that stuff is really frustrating to use. So I just don't buy that the technology is brilliant. I think it's for the price. You get a big shiny screen and maybe a massage seat, but I think
John,
price led.
Maybe in the future you can tell us what you really think about these Chinese cars.
But other than that, great.
Why do you think they have been accepted so quickly? Because I mean, this is the bit that I just find amazing. The Korean cars. I think it took Hyundai something like 27 years to get 2% market share. Kia 18 years, MG 12 years. It took BYD 2 years, and Omoda Jayco just 9 months. I mean, it is rapid.
I suppose you have to look back, don't you? Like an Omoda or a Jayco does look like a European car ish. And looks sort of passably premium. Whereas I'm thinking back to, I live in a town, as you do, James, where a Kia garage was the only car dealer, little seaside town. And you just see Kias everywhere, usually as taxis. But like, there was never why would you go and buy a Kia Mentor? That was the sort of one we used to see here in the 90s, that was the Ford Escort rival, wasn't it? No one went and bought one of those. And I think it was just, I don't know if they didn't have the capital to push the marketing in quite the same way, or they didn't recruit as many dealers, or what, or it was just, to be honest, all the other cars were perfectly fine in price at that point, and now they're not. This is the thing. You get people coming off the end of their PCPs and discovering that actually the price of a whatever Ford Cougar or whatever has gone up $2,000 for no apparent reason. So that's I think it's price, really. I think people, and all the things I've just said, I think people are more open to weird brands.
Yeah, Mark, what do you think? What's your take on this? Because I find it absolutely fascinating, as you've probably guessed.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank God you're finally talking about it on the podcast. So that's it's about well overdue. No, I think you're right. I think the value proposition is just so strong to people. Like, as you say, things might not be quite perfect, and I don't have first-hand experience, so I'm just going off what you guys say and what I read and consume in the motor press and not motor press. And I think you've talked about that before. Things that annoy motor journalists don't normally annoy normal people. And I think it's meeting maybe not the minimum viable product, but it's good enough, and the price is so tempting that it's almost like, why wouldn't you? Once you put them side by side on the page, everyone's looking at the money at the moment. We're not awash with cash. Things are getting hard. So I think when you look at it, it's like, yeah, it might not be a brand that I know, or maybe the aspirational brand I've always promised myself, but actually it's doing everything I want it to do. It's got CarPlay, it's got a reversing camera. These are my must-haves, and it moves. That's kind of what everything else is a bonus for a lot of people. I think with regards to the brands, it is interesting though, because as you say, I don't think people have formed in their mind an opinion of what those brands are. If I purchase an Audi or a Rolls Royce, or when I was growing up a Skoda, that would have meant something very different to like buying a Skoda now. People kind of are like, oh, you're a certain type of person because you do this, or your social standing is pinned to this by these purchases you make. I just don't think these brands have established where they are on that graph, if you like, of what it means to have that. They're all just being bundled together as a Chinese car. I mean, even for yourselves, it must be difficult, because what's a budget Chinese car and what's a super premium Chinese car? What's an Audi equivalent Chinese car, a VW equivalent Chinese car, and a Seat within like the VW group? What's that within the Chinese version of VW? And I think people don't know this yet. So they're probably more willing to take a punt on a complete unknown, because you're not signifying anything in the same way that you might be with a heritage brand. So I think maybe as time goes on, and hopefully these brands start to differentiate themselves in some way and have a kind of DNA that people would understand that means, because it's kind of unfair at the moment. Everyone's just lumping it together as a Chinese car, but we don't have the vocabulary or the understanding of these brands yet to kind of differentiate them out. What's the off-road one? What's the gym girl one? What's the sporty outdoors family one? So I think as time goes on, those things will become a bit more clear, and then maybe we'll start to kind of see where they fit in, and that will become a purchasing decision for people. So it won't just be, oh, it's really cheap, I'm going to go with it. It's really cheap, but I'm not that type of person. It's like, it's really cheap, I want this really cheap one that's more with my lifestyle. So I think we'll see as the market matures how things turn out.
I will say, Mark, part of that is the brands themselves don't know and don't actually care. This is the really weird thing. So you're so used to having all this bump thrown at you about, the buyer of the Audi Q3 they like to go surfing at the weekend and whatever. You don't get any of that with the Chinese ones. They're just like, oh, well, that one's 25 grand, that one's 26 grand. We're selling them in the showroom next to each other. Don't really matter. Buy whatever you like.
And maybe,
so
I'm in marketing, so I'm susceptible to marketing. Once you work in marketing, you become even worse. You kind of appreciate all this stuff, these subtle nuances. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just that is what it is. It's this price, and we sell a lot of them. And, the people that buy it like it, and that's all we need to do.
What I found quite interesting since publishing that video, and it was a topic that Batch brought up when we were talking about this in the office earlier this week. It's just how these customers who have bought them that are so passionate about them. It's like they jump on these sorts of videos and jump on these owners groups that have sprung up because they want validation of their purchase and want to prove that they've made the right choice. But the people out there, if you have a look at like the JQ Owners Club, for example, on Facebook, Batch showed me some of the comments. They absolutely love them. So that's got to help these brands some way, isn't it?
100%. Community driven stuff, like, definitely once you get those advocates, and then they're going to recommend it, and those first person recommendations are so valuable. I mean, I got out of a very expensive to run Saab, which I absolutely loved, but that was crippling me every time something broke or every time I went to the petrol pump. And I switched to a Dacia Duster, and I felt like I'd hacked life somehow, because I was paying under £200 a month for a brand new car that needed filling up hardly ever, compared to my 3 litre, Saab that I had. And I
love a
became
Duster.
that person. Once you find something, you're like, oh my God, I've got so much more money. I've hacked real life somehow. I've found a loophole. You become super passionate about it. And I dare say people that are driving around in what they believe is a Temu Range Rover that does nearly everything they want it to do, looks great in their eyes, they're going to get super passionate about it. So, the brands must be absolutely loving it. Normal people are doing their job for them and reducing the need for their marketing spend. So, more power to them, I suppose.
Yeah.
I will say one final thing, which I suspect also helps, is I think when your Toyotas and your Kias and so on came along, most people bought cars with retail cash. They didn't go and finance it. And I think when you're spending your, whatever it would have been for a Kia Mentor versus a Ford Escort, like 13 grand or 11 grand, when you're spending that, there's a sort of awareness of, this is actually a lot of capital I'm putting into this. Whereas now that everything's financed, you've got a start and an end time, haven't you? It goes back on your PCP at the end of this as guaranteed future value. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to pay £300 a month for the next 3 years for a car that I find I don't like very much, and then it'll be the end of it. You're much better protected in a way from your investment, aren't you? So I think that's changed the way that people select their car as well. Shall I move us on in the...
Yes, I could talk about Chinese cars all day, John, as you well know.
So I'm going to touch briefly. Well, I'm going to hand this largely to you, James, to be honest, because I can't be bothered to go through the information. You know it all. But Group 1, I'm going to talk about, and their news that they are to axe more UK jobs and dealerships, despite clocking up record revenues in 2025. So they've confirmed that they will make further workforce realignment and strategic closings of certain facilities. Very strange way of writing that, but that's how they've written it in, I assume, some sort of investor report. Has this come from, James?
It was their annual results, John.
There you go. And they've made we've talked before about Group 1's site closures, haven't we? I think JLR, enormous numbers they're getting rid of comparatively. The site near to our office, relatively speaking, very nice brand new BMW and Mini site on the side of the A3, which gets a lot of traffic going past it, has just been completely mothballed, signs removed, lights still on. Seems like a strange choice to me, but there we are. Must have been too expensive to operate. And it sounds like there's more to come, which is a shame, to put it lightly. What did you make of this, James?
Well, I was very surprised to read this story when the headlines came out. I think it was yesterday, actually, that they're looking to axe more jobs and sites. I mean, this is, you got to remember how Group 1 grew. They were already a pretty successful group in the UK, and then in 2024 they snapped up those Inchcape dealerships, the entire portfolio of Inchcape for £346 million. That's a massive purchase at their time. It was at that time that all these American companies were snapping up stuff off the stock market over here and buying up these bigger groups and making themselves even bigger. And it's just been interesting to see how that has kind of how it's settled. Really, the dust has settled of those deals, because they're clearly finding it tough, and they're looking at these portfolios that they've got of dealerships. They're selling lots of them on. They're shedding sites. They're closing these poorly performing ones, and they're losing jobs as a result. And I just find it really quite sad. That you surely you'd think these two when they put these two businesses together, the plan was to make it even bigger, not a little bit smaller. And I just wonder what's gone wrong. And I think you don't really get a clue of that in their results. I mean, they're still bringing in huge amounts of money. I mean, Group 1 is a massive business, and they're making huge amounts of money. Yes, John?
Can I have a guess?
Go on.
Is it that they bought these dealerships at a time when the market was very strong and COVID was in full flow, or
Well,
poor choice, I suppose.
2024, I mean, you'd like to think that it'd settle down a little bit
Mm.
after those highs of the used car prices and the new car production problems. I mean, it was starting to get a bit more normal in 24, wasn't it? And actually, at the time, if you look back at some of the reports that dealers had, 2024 wasn't the easiest of years.
Mm.
So I
Strange.
just, I think I just find it a real shame. We keep on getting told about Group 1 dealers being closed. Unfortunately, stuff gets leaked out to us of how things happen. And you've got to feel for the people in these businesses who probably were thinking at the time, working at Inchcape, a UK listed business, saw this big American company come along, snap them up, think, right, here we go, we're hitting the big time now. And then as a result of that, they're losing their jobs. There must be some very very shocked people out there, and I can see why.
Well, this is the frustrating thing. You sort of think if that acquisition hadn't happened, would those dealers still be there? Probably. But there we are.
Yes. I mean, Mark, have you got anything on that one?
Just very sad. It was kind of a bit of a gloomy week on a few of the news stories, and this was just one. It's never nice to hear about job losses and just thoughts of people going through that, because it's it's a scary thing to land on your desk that you're not going to be working anymore.
Yeah. Shall I try and wedge one last one in, John?
Wedge away.
Wedge away. I'm wedging it in. I'd just like to follow up on our story about Targa Florio cars, which we investigated last week with some Cook Report style reporting outside.
Nice topical reference there, James.
You won't remember that, John, will you?
No, I won't.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to be the one on the. But what was the other one where the guys were riding around on the back of a motorbike? Matt
James, I was
Allwright.
born in 1991. I don't know these things.
Dominic,
Anyway.
whatever his name is.
Oh, I do
Dominic
know that
Little-
one. Yeah, okay.
Littlewood. Is it? Anyway,
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Jump off and ask people awkward questions. But anyway, this is news. Targa Florio Cars is going to enter liquidation. So the BBC followed up our story, John, and reported.
Okay, not quite, James, but yeah, all right. Do you mean they were there alongside us asking the same questions? All right, yeah, fine.
Yeah, but they just published 4 days later. So
Right, okay, got you.
Unlucky for them. But the BBC published a report. They'd spoken to quite a few of the owners who'd had cars on sale or return with that business. A few of those have had their cases settled. William Kirkham, the director, was speaking through a lawyer to the BBC and told them the decision to close that business had been taken following very difficult trading conditions. He blamed Black Book realignment, the increase in business rates, national insurance and other business expenses, and he told the BBC that he'd be placing the business into insolvent liquidation and that himself intends to apply for bankruptcy. So there's clearly a few customers out there of this dealer that are still waiting for their money. And as it stands today, I checked this morning, no official notice on Companies House about liquidation or administrators being appointed. But sad to see that story still rumbling on. But at least he's actually come out and said something and paid some of those customers back. I think the 3 people in the BBC report got their money back from the sale or return, so they will certainly be very happy to see that. But very, very difficult story again, John, but yeah, interesting to see it rumble on.
Yes, absolutely. Not much more I can say about that, really.
Legally,
because you've used the word lawyers.
And you know how much the lawyers love sending us a letter here at
They
Guardian
do.
Magazine.
They do.
Yeah, I haven't had one of those for a while, so if you're listening and you'd like to send us one, please do, but make sure it's a nice one.
Well, I'm going to end it swiftly there because, I still want to have a paycheck at the end of the month. So, Mark, before I ask for your verdict, are there any stories you think we've missed this week?
I mean, there were quite a few. I did my homework, I'll be honest, before this one. And,
good. I'm glad somebody did.
I have notes and everything.
Wow. That's more than I've got.
But it was a bit, it kind of felt like a week of like not bad news, but there was no kind of standout super happy news. The one I suppose that did to me was, I think it was your man on from, was it Auto Trader, talking about the used car is strong at the moment, but there's a bit of a, time bomb's the wrong word, but the kind of 5 to 7 year old stock's not going to be in the market, and there's no way to kind of reinvent that. That's happened, and that spot is moving through the trade at the moment. So I think that's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I'll be listening into future episodes about how dealers who traditionally use that kind of that area to how they're going to evolve and work through that. I think, probably it's something where you can really, presentation would become super important, and if there's not a lot of availability, you really have to make what's there work really, really hard to rise to the top. And especially if you maybe have to start selling something a little bit older to your customer that's used to having a 5 to 7 year old car, and you're trying to get them into an 8 to 10, you got to make sure that car is as good looking as possible. And I think that's where, your presentation, your prep and everything really, really comes in. And dare I say it, if you're going to have to drop your price because the car's a bit older, there's a benefit for your after sales, your life shines of the world, and that kind of thing to get a bit more money running through your business. So I thought that was really interesting, and I'll definitely be listening in the future to see how dealers are working through that. And
See what
reading
you did there, Mike. Very good.
of course.
Good plug. Yeah.
I mean that was professional. Autoglym professional. No
Thank you
less.
very much.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you who chose the best stories, or who's your winner, or what's your favourite story. Any of the three above that I just said is fine.
Yeah, it's hard. I think probably because it's rumbling on, it's so current. I think I'm going to have to go with the perennial Chinese cars story.
All that hard work was worth it. I'm finally on the scoreboard.
I mean, lost we're talking about it, but it's I think that's just so topical at the moment, and it'd be interesting to watch it develop.
Oh, well, a very well-deserved win for James, because he's been toiling away for the last week, manoeuvring JQs and BYDs into his showroom so he can walk around them like he's on Watchdog. So a lot of effort went into that video, James. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you. And thank you, Mark. I will take the win and chalk it up. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Lovely. Well, all that's left for me to say is thank you to Mark for joining us today. It's been lovely to have you on and chat a bit about you and Autoglym. And I do hope this experience of actually being in the podcast hasn't ruined listening to the podcast for you. And now you can see how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Podcast sausage.
Oh. Anyway, thank you, Mark. Do come again.
Did you write that? Was that actually
no, I didn't.
I don't know how to reply. Thank you.
Oh, dear. Thank you, Mark. Thank you as well to James, who now is going to keep laughing until next week.
Sorry, yeah, that was actually brilliant.
And thank you for listening. We will be back next week with another episode, so make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when that goes live. I don't know when that is going live, James, because we need to work out our NADA time zone difference. So we'll be bringing you one from NADA, will we not, in some form?
We will, yeah. Let's work out our diary off air and just tell listeners that there will be one next week sometime.
I think it's more fun this way. If I open up iCal, minus 9 hours. Anyway, yes, so we'll be back next week with another episode. Make sure to subscribe, take a minute when it goes live. If you want to check out the stories mentioned today, take a look in the show notes below or head to cardealermagazine.co.uk. Thanks for listening and goodbye.